All right. We have a great show today. We have on top producing agent Danny Force, and we're going to dissect how he closes 49 transactions last year with no assistant or transaction coordinator. We're going to go ahead and get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Great Thursday show today. I'm off. This feels weird.
Derek looks darker in there than usual. I thought he fucking left for a second.
He turned all the lights off in there. I got butterflies in my stomach because I think it's just it's throwing off my schedule.
Yeah.
So like I
Right.
feel like
Feels like the first time again.
Yeah, exactly.
I can go so many places with that.
And
Yeah, I'm off. I'm off with the day, so we're a little out of whack. I just got back from a great conference, Jeff Glover, the Glover U live Unreal retreat, where that guy's selling like 1,500 houses a year.
Jeez.
you were telling us a little bit beforehand about some of the stuff he does, man. Like, I would like if you know anybody who's killing it with billboards. We had a conversation off camera about this. Like, let us know because none of us can really figure out how in the hell you can make a ton of money off billboards.
Well, I mean, he's backing it up. That's his number one ROI investment right now.
Yeah.
But he's also running radio ads, TV commercials, and he's the official real estate company or team of the Detroit Tigers.
Oh, that
Wow.
helps.
So, I mean, when you start getting that brand recognition, which we were kind of talking about, I mean, you know, we'll dive into that in a minute. We have on today Danny Force, who 2018 closed 49 transactions, no assistants, no transaction coordinator, no team. He likes to be alone.
Just grinding like a fucking rhino.
Yeah, yeah. Well, welcome, Danny. And first of all, this is the older Force.
The smarter one for sure.
Well, older too, chronologically speing.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
I don't think that ever changes.
Brilliant.
It
I
really
haven't
can't change.
I haven't a lot of time to spend with him, but it seems like he talks a lot less too.
I don't think that's
He talks
specific to
enough for both of
forces.
us.
That's probably everyone in the world.
Well, welcome,
Well, has
Danny.
anybody ever been able to get a word in?
Yeah,
I mean-
we give him about 15 minutes of every show just to go off on his crazy billionaire ideas.
I got
and
an unreal one today.
Jesus, I opened-
Stick around.
So stick around for Billionaire Idea. But Danny, let's kind of break down. You know, when did you get in the business? And how did you get to your big break of getting to the 49 transaction mark?
I started in March of 2010, so coming up on 10 full years next year. I just kind of, I started at a big brokerage, and first couple of years were super slow. It was bad markets in 10 and 11, and not really kind of entering a world that it's different than the other careers people will have. It's just, it's those who do it on the weekends and evenings, it's not something, if you don't do it every day, you really can pick up all the changes and all that. And I hadn't really adhered to it. I needed to keep the bills going and all that and pay for them. So first 2 years, I literally sold 5 houses, period. Combined. One of them was our parents.
Yeah.
It's a built-in deal.
Yeah, that one.
I think they paid him a full 6% though. So
They did.
There you go.
They did. They didn't argue. But from there, I just kind of, everybody gets taught different things, and depending on where you come from or what background you have. I didn't have a sales background, period, and just trying different things, taking from, what you're taught and adapting your own personalities into what you're good at to create a strategy that works for you. And it's just kind of year 3, it was 12 deals, and then it just kind of took off and incrementally went up a little bit. And there's only been 1 year where I didn't do more than the year previously, and that actually was last year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so walk us through those first 2 years. You did 5 deals combined. I mean, did you question if real estate was the right move for you?
My ex-wife did.
Oh man, there's so many commonalities in this room.
But no, it's one of those where I did 2 deals my first year, and the first one was a brand new construction home. It was a friend of mine who had kind of waited for me to get my license, and then I helped her buy a new build. I still had no idea what I was doing at the time. I didn't know what a closing cost was, and the builder asked if we needed help with it. I probably should have said yes. But
Now we got it.
And then, yeah,
She'll be fine.
and then it was 6 more months until our parents' home closed, and so it was, trying to figure out, you can't just put your name out on the internet and all of a sudden people come knocking, because there's there's probably 100,000 realtors here in DFW, close to that, something like that.
From someone who runs the analytics of the marketing side of the only real estate podcast we're listening to and is charged with bordering the line of spam emails, I can tell you exactly how many licensed realtors there are in DFW. There are just over 102,000.
That is
Pretty close.
A real number.
Right?
So you couple that with how many people, are out there competing with your business. Just putting your name out there and sitting on the couch watching reruns doesn't exactly equate to a successful business. And so just some things you have to learn. You don't just, being out there doesn't really work.
Yep.
And so it's creating stuff that people will respond to, that they can trust that you know what you're talking about. And so the first couple of years I just spent really getting to know how contracts worked, how negotiations happened, what went where in the contracts, what do I do when I get an option check? I had no idea. None of these things were ever taught to me. And so learning all those things firsthand, I think you can learn more actually out on the job in this industry than sitting in a classroom listening to somebody talk to you. At least that's how I learn things. And so I learn by making mistakes and figuring out what not to do again. And so, I did exactly 2 deals. One was in, call it May. One was in September, and then I didn't close a single house until the following June. And then I sold a house in June, July, and August that year. And it was a friend of mine, a person I had rented a home to the previous year, and then somebody who actually called into the office when I was sitting there at phone duty one day. So from there, and then the following year, I did an open house every weekend from March till October. I mean, we've lived here since 1994,
Yep.
And there's still some parts of the Metroplex I had never learned anything about because I didn't have to. We grew up in South Lake. I had really never spent much time in the mid-cities.
Yep.
I'd never spent much time in, we went to a friend's party once out over in North Fort Worth, which is where, oddly enough, my first house was that my wife and I bought.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so far away. It was all of 19 minutes. And I thought it was so far away because it wasn't something I'd travel to a whole lot. So I had to do a lot of learning about all of the areas and what the houses were like there, and what went. Like I'm not big on Frisco, Plano, Allen, McKinney. I don't spend a lot of time up there, but I know enough about it to be able to talk freely about it and to sell real estate because I've had to force myself to travel up there to learn about the areas, know what zip codes are more prevalent for new construction, which ones are prevalent for back alleys in Plano, things like that. Just stuff you have to kind of go out to experience, and that's what I spend a good portion of time doing.
And before we go into what I'm going to say you're known for now, because there was a gentleman that was walking out of the studio, and I was like, oh, that's Danny Force. And y'all never met, right? So go back those first 2 years, 5 deals. Were you going to go down the prospecting route? Because a lot of your stuff seems attraction-based style of marketing.
So I got in, I was 25 when I started. And so, this was 2010 and 11. So, it's right about the time that all your friends start buying houses and, graduating college, getting jobs and stuff like that. So I really went hard into my Facebook and my messengers. Hey, I'm licensed, if you need help, whatever. It wasn't as hard sell as if you need help with anything. It's just more of I'm here if you have a question, not necessarily, hey, use me to buy a house. Well, that sounds pushy. I did more of I'm here if you need help. And so then I continued to follow up. And I did actually help, I think, 3 or 4 friends from high school buy houses in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th year, some of whom have sent me parents, some of whom have used me again. And so that was what I spent a little bit of time doing, was really getting into it and figuring out how that stuff really could work for the Facebook game, because social media marketing wasn't really that big back then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so you were going down that rabbit hole rather than, you were probably at a big brokerage that would probably teach making a lot of calls.
And that was part of the first couple of years, is that I don't like cold calling. I don't like being cold called. I've hung up on 6 people today. And so I don't like it. And so, I mean, you can always tell. I mean, AT&T has the app.
Matt's made 6 new friends today.
through salespeople.
I don't really need AT&T Uverse just yet, but hey, man, keep me in your database. We'll talk soon.
Right.
Follow up.
What are you doing this weekend?
Are you getting the ones now that even say political call on it?
I get ones that say fraud alert, and I'm like, well this is kind of productive.
I've had them actually say political call coming across the top. But yeah, they teach you that. I never got into that. I never got into door knocking. I know it works for people, and that's why they continue to teach you that. Door knocking never worked for me. One, I don't like doors slammed in my face. And so that I also have bad knees from my hockey days. And so I can't walk neighborhoods all the time. And spend my time, 2-3 hours a day doing that when I could using that in other alternative methods.
Yep.
I don't like cold calling because people don't like to be cold called. And so, I mean, some people have just saturated it so much that it turns enough people off to where the next person in line is, set for the yelling that was meant for somebody else.
Just getting berated on the phone.
Exactly. I mean,
and I think what's really important is that you found what works for you and you persevered long enough to make it effective, right? Like, if you look, that's probably the one commonality of every person in this room, as different as all of us are. Bartender, stripper. Right? He used to work at the snack bar at the gym and wait tables his first year in real estate. Like 87% of people quit. You know what I mean? And that's it's just finding, we're going to bring it back to mindset, I'm sure, at some point in this podcast, but it's really fucking tough to only sell 5 houses in 2 years and persevere, right? But when you have the right mindset, I wrote that on the board in our office today because I'm tired of memes. I can't do it anymore, right? I'm tired of just reach for the stars and you'll land at the clouds or whatever it is. They all run together. I erased all of the inspirational stuff on our whiteboard and I wrote on the whiteboard, you will fail 98% of the time.
Yep.
And I was like, if you can get past that, if you can accept that shit, you can be a millionaire. You can be whatever you want in this business. But understand you're going to fail 98% of the time. And if you can be okay with that, you'll persevere. And this is, everybody in here is living proof.
Yep.
Some of those things are work. I mean, I keep a few of those on there just to look at every now and then and post them for, social media, the influence, I should say. But
they're great branding. Don't post you'll fail 98% of the time on Facebook.
More of the accumulating interaction, if you will. Mm-hmm. But it's like I'm one of those. I keep every receipt, so I know exactly how much money I have at any given time on all of my accounts. Yeah. So I know exactly when I'm going to run out if I don't sell another house.
There you go.
So that's really what is the thing that I look at is, success is find so many different ways. How many you sell or how many you do a year, whatever. I look at it as, do I have enough to not sell a house this month if something happened?
Yep.
And so, I mean, I purposely let off the gas a little bit this year simply because I had a kid last week. And so I didn't want to be super busy while that's going on. We've already got a 2.5-year-old. So my wife is already stressed beyond belief. And so, the other one coming along and helping out a little bit, it's being able to sit there and comfortably sit there and say, okay, we have enough money to last for X amount of months. If I don't sell one more house, I know exactly how much it costs to run my house every month, down to within $10.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that I look at. And I know exactly all of that.
Well, I hope everybody hears what you said too, that you don't like calling and door knocking, but you still did open houses every weekend for 6 months.
Yeah, I did that my third year, and I learned more about, for example, there's houses in Bedford I never knew had bomb shelters. Basements are not prevalent here in North Texas, but there are a handful of houses that do have them, and they're not expensive houses.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of stuff. I've seen a house with a toaster built into the wall. And so, actually, it was on the same open house as the bomb shelter. But I don't know what.
There's one house in Bedford that's got all kinds of crazy shit in it.
I'd have to go back and find out which one that was and see if it's ever for sale again. I'd kind of like to own it. But I tried a few different things to figure out what worked for me because, like I said, I've never had a sales background. I've never been somebody who sold things to other people, and at any of the jobs I've ever done was ever like that. And I think that teaches to how everybody's different. Things work differently for everybody. And so, I have a degree in broadcast journalism, so my background is sitting here literally doing this. And so that has given my ability to have conversations with people that much of a boost, instead of being the person who doesn't like to sit behind a camera like so many people I try to help do marketing. Well, I don't want to hear my own voice. I don't want to see myself. Well, people are looking at you. Like how you talk to a camera is exactly the same way you talk to somebody else. Yeah. And so that's the way that I've been telling people who are asking me for help. That's what they need to do. If you don't like the way you talk, practice it. Film yourself. Put it in front of a mirror. And I had somebody ride along with me one day who was scared. She was the daughter of one of my realtor friends. I don't know how I remember this person, but she rode along with me for like a week while she was home from spring break for college. And I told her, sing a song. I don't care. You're sitting in the seat next to me. Sing a song. If you can sing to somebody, you can talk to anybody about anything. Yeah. So do it. Most people don't like to hear themselves sing. I couldn't care less. I'll get up there and sing karaoke at any time of the day. Yeah. But some people just don't do that. And so that's one of the things that has allowed me to kind of shape, how I talk to people, how I do marketing is figuring out what worked for me and using some of the skills I've learned in other professions or the degree I have, either one of the degrees, and applying it to real estate.
And that's like one of the most simple pieces of advice you can give. That's probably the most important that people need to hear over. Matt and I have this conversation about books all the time, how we hear the same things, and finally they get through to you. Like, I mean, I'm living proof of it as well. When we started this podcast, I was nervous. When we started, and I'm a dude that does not have trouble with talking to people, if you haven't noticed, for the most part, right?
See our family cookouts.
Right, but there's a lot of White Claws involved in those.
And they all, we already know where they come from.
But I mean, like, I post videos in our Facebook group all the time. We started a YouTube channel, all this stuff that made me super uncomfortable. That once you just get into it and you're consistent about it, it gets so much easier. I will never forget we had a dude post in the Facebook group about a video that I had posted that morning. It was like 5:30 in the morning, right after I got back from the gym. And he posted later on in the group. He was like, "Brian, I played your video for my team today at our team meeting. It was one of the most productive team meetings we ever had." Like that right there, like that was like, this is the best day of my life.
It's because they zoned out and wanted to go back to work.
Exactly. They were like, it put everybody to sleep, and then I stole all their money, so it was really productive for me. No, it was just like, it's one of those things where like, you feel so stupid doing it sometimes. Like, so stupid doing it sometimes. But if you just put it into rational perspective and be like, dude, like, nobody's sitting there on Facebook just being like, what an idiot. I hate this guy.
Hey, you're not a Channel 5 anchor.
Yeah, you're not that important. If you can get over yourself and, like, this is a weird thing to say, but if you can get over your lack of importance, right? Like, you're not important enough to feel stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just do your thing and be consistent about it.
Well, I think that's what, because Danny came into my world before I even knew who he was through the same avenues that everybody knew who he was. I saw his Facebook ads everywhere. And of course, as somebody who couldn't run their own Facebook ads, I was like, trying to figure out what the hell this guy was doing. And the thing I took away from him the most, though, is you celebrate the successes of your clients. Like, you celebrate your success through them owning a home, right? There's never a look at me post. And if you look at the way I celebrate closings, it's the same way.
Yep.
I'm showing everybody in my Facebook feed, everybody in my social media world, that I just had another closing. But it's through congratulating these people on their new home and the new area and the new schools and whatever it is that they were looking to get out of it.
Yep.
And celebrating that success through others gives you proper social proof. It's a humble brag for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that you did at a really high level that I straight stole.
Some of it is you making sure if you're posting closing photos, which I do is every time, minus maybe the couple times where somebody doesn't want one.
Yeah.
I make sure to tag the clients in them, not just send them the photo and let them do what they want. I make sure to actually physically tag them, because all of their friends and family are seeing it, liking the post, and they're able to see all of that, and then you can start inviting them to your page off of that.
Yep.
I mean, there's probably 100 people on my Facebook. I probably don't know more than 20 people.
Yeah.
But they're all there, and they're all able to see this content, and that's how I've been able to build up such a presence on that. But like he said, it's not necessarily promoting yourself. If you're, oh yeah, I had a closing, wonderful, but these people bought a house today.
It's a way bigger deal.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then I will post something, statistically speaking, that will show me in a different light. Like I just did one probably last week. My lender had got an email from one of our clients about refinancing a house I sold 2 years ago in a neighborhood out in Azle. So I went back and reran comps to make sure it was worth it, realizing, dear Lord, these houses are worth 30 to 40% more than when he bought the house 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, cool. You don't get that from renting.
Yeah.
So I made a 6-paragraph post about it and sponsored that around.
Yeah.
There's like 130 people who've already interacted with it.
That's huge.
So, and the thing is, I picked up those clients from a post that I'd made 3 years ago about that neighborhood, talking about the acre lots and the low prices and all the updates that come with it. I couldn't tell you how many interactions I had with that original post. These guys found me that way, bought another house, and the wife had just referred her brother to me, who closed a house 2 months ago. So off that one post, I ended up picking up 2 clients off it, and that guy's got a couple of rental properties as well.
Wow.
The other thing you do really well, too, is you're not spending time worrying about markets that you don't know a lot about, right?
No.
Like a lot of agents get spread so thin. Shout out to my guy, Joe Atkins, who sells in Dallas. But he told me really early on, he was like, when the market turned, I started doing a bunch of leases, and I just focused on those and became really good at them. And then they turned into buyers, right? But so many of us agents I work the DFW Metroplex.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
There is so much shit going on in this huge Metroplex, and you've just found your area, and you'll take stuff outside of it.
I will,
Your
and
business is one area.
I tend to focus more on the type of client rather than the area. I mean, I live in Roanoke out by the Speedway. I mean, but I sold 4 houses in Forney last year, which is a 2-hour round trip for me.
Right.
I did another one this year, and I've got another one under contract. I don't know how these people keep finding me, but I'll take it.
Sure.
I also sold one in Aledo last year, in Azle, in Denton, in Aubrey, in Anna. So I mean, it's really a culmination of all the areas, but it helps to know what areas are USDA eligible too.
Yeah.
Because that's a different marketing perspective altogether.
So with that, I mean, we just talked about how your Facebook presence and the marketing you're doing is getting that brand out there, right? So for those that aren't in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Danny's running a lot of sponsored Facebook posts. So take us down that path, because I'm going to say that I saw your stuff, and I used to save it, and Brian walked into my office one day. I had your buyer's guide printed out, and I changed it. And I'm like, all right, I'm editing it to make it, our own, right? And Brian's like, oh, I do the same thing.
Most of my clients are first-time home buyers, and that's the demographic I choose to focus on. Everybody likes to watch $1 million listing and, cash those, big checks and all that, the 1.2 million, wonderful. I like to do that too when they come around, but I don't focus on it. I would rather have 5 $200,000 clients than one $1 million client. It's
One of your clients for life too.
Exactly. I like to focus on helping people get their first home. One, they're more enjoyable when they do it. They're more excitable. I shouldn't say enjoyable. They're excitable. They tend to have a lot of friends who are on the same age, and that turns into more referral sources at the end of the day. And it's more work. It's the same money, and I'm out there getting to interact with more people, but it's 5 times the potential reach for me. And they love to talk about the people who helped them in such a regard. Still to this day, the most expensive house I've ever sold was $947,000.
Wow.
I've only ever sold 3 houses over $800,000. One of them was this year.
Wow.
And so that's one thing I have done is I started focusing on those and virtually those only for a while. And so this was back, I want to say 3.5 years ago or so, when Facebook hadn't cracked down on everything yet, when all of their algorithms weren't quite picking up, and they weren't in trouble with HUD or anything like they are today. And so they had a lot more abilities to target based on whatever things I put in there, whether they were between 20 and 30 years old, and this is when they had the income-based targeting filters as well, which I think they've done away with.
Yeah, I took all that out.
And so I don't know how they do that. How do you know how much money I make a year? Do you just look at my pictures or what?
I think it's data points, man. We're just giving everybody so much data. They see what we search on our phones.
Alexa's listening to us right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't even worry about it anymore. Like, it makes it easier for me to order the shit I want, so I guess I'll just give you everything in my world.
Right.
So, I mean, you could always find people on there who said they were a renter or things like that, and I tend to do specific blog posts. I wrote a blog post every Sunday for about a year and I built up an archive in my website focused on one or more things. And so from there, I started ping-backing everything else into there to where they could go from one to another. And some of these would get 2,000-3,000 views on them, and some would be sent to. I had one that had like 12,000 views on it for one reason. I think the one after that had 240. Yeah. So you look at the results and figure out what works and try to exploit it a little more. And I started doing that. I started sponsoring things around. Started putting, instead of focusing on me, I started focusing on putting content out. A lot of first-time home buyers don't know a single thing about the process. They Google, they ask friends, they ask family, people who bought a house 25 years ago, not necessarily today. And so, things like that, they're just going to search for anyways. Why not search on my blog or on my YouTube channel or anything like that, where they could find the same content and relate to the person who's giving it to them. So I picked up, I want to say, and I keep track on my spreadsheets of how every client that I closed came to me. There was one year I picked up, I want to say 16 or 17 clients straight from Facebook.
Nice.
And then, it's become more of a referral every year after, but there was a lot of them one year, and then the year after was about the same. And a lot of it just comes from content-based stuff you're putting out there. And so they're cracking down a little bit on the HUD guidelines and things like that. That one that I sponsored the other day about my clients out in Azle, they said, oh, well, this ad may not be, it actually got denied first. They said it was something along the lines of you can't put out something about person's distinctive characteristics.
Yeah.
And I looked through it, and I actually wrote in the notice there, this is an ad for renting versus buying. There is not a single description of a person's characteristic here in this. 20 minutes later, it was approved.
Was it?
Yeah, manual approval.
Oh, I've had those arguments so many times.
I'm fighting Facebook right now. I'm about to boycott it because this is just like we switched from Keller Williams to EXP, and in my Facebook page it has the Good Home Team Keller Williams. Well, I changed it to Good Home Team EXP, and they rejected it. Said it violated terms of service. It had misadvertising.
Yeah, I've had that, not in my real estate one, but I mean on the kickball teams I play on, I have a page for one of those. And when we changed our team names, obviously I changed that as well. And I got rid of like it'll say something kickball for the team name. So when I changed it, I originally did it with that new team and then kickball, and it rejected it. So then I got rid of the kickball one, and it got saved first. And then once it got approved, then I added the kickball at the end.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do it.
So that way it kind of confused their filters, and then I was eliminating that at the very beginning and then adding it at the end.
I'm not allowed to play on the kickball team anymore.
No, there's a
lifetime ban, right?
Lifetime ban.
Might as well be.
Shenanigans and tomfoolery.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a billionaire idea around your kickball.
Oh, between me, the strong arm of Tom Force, who used to play first base, I think he still does, right?
Until he blew his Achilles.
I think the billionaire idea is the kickball team. We're almost undefeated for like a decade. It's unreal.
It's people leaving with bruises and
I
cuts
got
after the
banned for life for arguing with umps in games where we were up by 16
That
runs.
was part of it.
It's so ridiculous.
So before we go down your billionaire idea path, and before we go into learning more, I want to learn more about why you're doing 49 deals with no assistant and no transaction coordinator. But if you haven't joined our Facebook group, the only Facebook group worth being a part of,
You son of a bitch.
Did it again.
The only real estate group worth being a part of
easy.
on Facebook. I like it now. It's became a bit.
Yeah.
It's
It
become
is a bit.
Yeah.
It's a bit. I just don't know if he's being serious.
No,
at this
he's dead
point.
serious.
Yeah,
I don't.
dead serious,
He's dead serious.
Look, I'm scripted, and I've had it scripted in my head for
There's
so long
no
that that's
way
what
you
it
get
is.
it wrong that many times.
Well,
It's so
is.
fantastic. I believe you. I just wait for it every show
Yeah.
now.
Then go to touracademy.com.
That's an easy
and
one.
That's
Tour
easy.
Academy, Tore Academy.com, and go sign up for our membership site.
If you join the Facebook group, I think we're doing a deal right now. I don't know what it is that you get free. Something.
We're always giving away free
We're
stuff.
always giving away free. There's an announcement in the Facebook group about what you get free if you're in the Facebook group, and there's a coupon code. So go join the Facebook group, and if you're already in the Facebook group, go check out the announcements, which are the first posts, and join Tour Academy.
So, Danny, 49 deals, no help. Why? That sounds like a beating.
It's just something I've learned to be able to do on my own for now. I mean, my lender, Denise, has been yelling at me for 2 years now to get some help. And it's like, I can still literally do all this. I've done this long enough that I didn't all of a sudden wake up one day and go from 5 deals to 50, and now all of a sudden I'm scrambling for all this. I've incrementally increased my business every year to the point where I've learned to manage, not just one deal at a time, but 7 or 8 ongoing at a time. I know when they're closing. I know at what stage they're at, whose documents are where. So I've just kind of got a mental and physical checklist for every single transaction that comes in, pre and post closing is where all this goes and all that. So I've learned to, one, not work on any sleep. I get like 5 hours of sleep a day.
You have a newborn too.
That's actually the new excuse of why it's only 5 hours of
There you
sleep.
go.
But I've kind of learned, just kind of the sequences and mastering those of how, once it comes in, making sure the checks go obviously to the right places, and then the checklist goes on from there to closing days of, how the transaction flows seamlessly. And I've been able to, I keep paper records of everything in manila folders. I keep individual folders on my desktop in there. Every file is backed up on my external hard drive from all 10 years I've been doing this. Every single document is in there. And, I've kind of just gotten used to being able to manage all of this without the help of somebody. At some point, I'm sure I'll get an assistant out there. I don't know of anybody that does things the way I do and would like to do them, and I don't like to fire people.
Yeah.
And so, and two, I still feel I can still do it on my own right now, and that's just where I've remained there.
Is there a certain number in your head that once you hit X, you're going to look at that, or
No, I mean, it could be I could do 100 transactions, and as long as I'm able to just manage them and be able to do them on my own, then I will. And I know that everybody says you can do more business if you have one, and it opens up more time and all that, but that may be true, but I'm still able to manage enough to do them all and properly channel everything and make sure all the documents are where they need to go and everybody's happy and all that, and it works for me.
I think it's true if you hire the right assistant.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
It's like there are some out there I wouldn't, but I probably get a message a week from somebody asking if they know of anybody or anything like that, and for some people do 10 deals a year and have an assistant, and good for them. That works for them. I managed to be able to do mine and not have one, and it works for me.
What is, from a guy that has built his business in, I would say in a little bit of an unorthodox way, just a way that's completely against the grain of what most brokerages would have you doing. Certainly against the grain of what our businesses probably look like, and it's been incredibly successful. What does the average day in Danny Force's world look like?
The average day, well, I'm usually up by about 5. Some of that now is accumulated or attested to the newborn. But I'm usually at the gym first thing in the morning to get that out of the way, and then I'm still home before anybody else in the house is up, so I'm able to work on all the admin work that I need to get done. I've written down before I go to sleep anything that needs to get done. I keep a notepad next to on my nightstand in case I think of stuff that I need to do while I'm in bed. And I'll do all that work in the morning, all the busy work. From there, it's following up on emails at that point. Once it gets to about 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock, some people are early people as well. And every day is different. Like some days I'll have showings, some days I'll have literally nothing. So it's a prospecting day, or it's figuring out what my next ad things are. Whether it's a particular housing program, whether it's focusing on a specific area, or something else that I can possibly put out there. And so there's no day that I don't do anything. Right. And so some of it is a little bit different. I usually, like after this, I've got to go show a couple of houses in Burleson. So, I hadn't, 2 hours ago, I didn't have that on my schedule. So it does fluctuate on a day-to-day basis. But for a general rule of thumb, I have most of the paperwork that the assistants would do done by about 8:30.
So when you're lead generating and on a day that's not a lot of showing, so prospecting the leads that you have in, are you outbound calling them? Or are you sending text and emails?
I use Follow Up Boss as my system, and so Follow Up Boss has the ability to, it tracks all of my deals, who is attached to each one, what stages they are, and tags that I associate with them. But they also have text message abilities and saving templates and all that. So I will sometimes go in there and filter it based on who came to a home buyer seminar of mine, who signed up for information on the down payment assistance grants, who was a past client that I can reach out to as well. And all of those come right through the system, and I can text message them based off templates. Yep. I can send them mass emails, and I can track all of that to see who's opened it, who's not. And from that, I'll just kind of learn a little more. I'll put little feelers out there, and I've got BombBomb integration on mine, so that I've recorded birthday videos, I've recorded anniversary day for closings, that is automatically sent out to them as well on those days. And so, I get emails when those are open too, so I know what that is, and I can follow up with them as well. And
ooh, that's a good idea. Lady, when you watch the replay of this, make sure you put in the Brivity closed transaction follow-up workflow. I'm just taking a mental note here. Sorry, guys, to interrupt the podcast.
This is not a mental note. You're saying it out loud.
Immediately shoot a follow-up BombBomb video and schedule to go out to that person 1 year later. If you do it up front, you never have to worry about it again.
Yeah, mine is pre-recorded without their names on it. And so I'll change it probably once a year right around the end of the year, so that way I know it's on my calendar.
It's like 10 years from now.
Well, that way it's not the exact same video every year. I've had some people who have been in the same house that I sold them since 2011. And so, they get the same video every year on their anniversary. It's okay, well, cool, it's the same video. Why would I watch this again?
Right.
And so, that kind of stuff. Or I'll shoot a video about, something. Like when every year, this happened to me earlier this year when the escrow analysis came out. Well, I found that my loan company had overcharged my escrow. And I was paying like $300 more than it was supposed to a month. I said, absolutely not. So I called the company and said, this is wrong, and here's the proof why. They fixed it. So I shot a video and said, hey, make sure to check all of it. Send it out to all of my past clients through BombBomb. So you guys need to watch this because it happened to me. It very well could have happened to you as well, especially those who bought new construction last year like we did. And so look at it, make sure it's right. And there was a couple of them who had it happen to them. And so they were able to get it corrected. Wow. And it's just another step of I'm still looking out for you 7 years after you buying your house.
So it's more reaching out through email and text, and then kind of baiting the water to see if someone's biting.
Yeah, and I'm still Facebook friends with, I would say, 95% of my clients out there. Some of them don't have it, and so every now and then I'll see somebody doing something. And I had clients who, God help them, went to University of Georgia. And so I wanted to go to the Rose Bowl game a couple of years ago when they beat OU in double overtime because I went to Oklahoma. And so, I was ribbing them the whole time because we were up 31-10 at the end of the first half and then pissed the game away. And so, just kind of being able to interact with them on a different level outside of real estate gives it another ability to, just to stop in and say hi.
That's huge. So somebody getting into real estate, we would all probably have completely different advice. Or I'd say the three of us have relatively similar advice. Like it's just mindset, perseverance. I would say knock 1,000 doors. You would say knock 0. What is Danny Force's one bit of advice for somebody either just getting into the business or somebody that is at that point where they're going, I don't know if this is for me?
Well, you talked earlier about spreading yourself thin, and I don't think that necessarily applies just to location.
Yep.
I think it applies to aspects of the industry. And so like I said, I focused mine on just first-time home buyers and new construction homes. That's what I know best, and that's what I exploit. So that's my bit of advice: is find one thing that you know or you can know and you want to learn, and exploit it. Work that your one thing and work out from there. You're not going to be good at every part of this. I mean, I don't do the luxury business. It's just not a personal preference of mine. It's just not where we live or where we grew up. There's just not a massive surplus of luxury homes. And so there is over on this side of town, with the areas over here in Dallas. We don't have that over where I live. Mm-hmm. And so that isn't a focus of mine. I focus more on the people who've never done it before. And that's where I've built my business, is focusing on one aspect and being the best at that.
Yep.
So that's why I promote myself as the first-time home buyer's realtor, because that's what I focus my energy on. I wrote, you talked about that handbook I wrote. I wrote that for first-time home buyers because I literally say the exact same thing 3 times a day, almost down to a T. And that's why I just wrote it. And I give it that 30-something page guide to every single one I meet for the first time when I should go to show them the house. I'm going to explain all this anyways, but in case you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't feel like calling me, here's your book. It's going to outline everything.
That's great.
And so that's where I'd sort of say differentiated is learn one aspect. Learn as much as you can, but don't try to focus on everything, because you will not be an expert at anything if you try to focus on all of it.
Yeah, 100%. As far as social media goes, such a huge part of your business, do you have a structure? Are you rigorous about being involved, or is it just things come to you in the moment?
I have notes on my phone of different topics of which to address, and I try to shoot a new video at least once a week on Fridays to try to post out about something.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a topic at hand, whether it's the option period, whether it's earnest money, whatever the case is that somebody may not know, and try to keep it under a minute. Because once you get past that, people kind of start to tune out sometimes.
Yep.
And so I try to be involved as much as possible. I don't have anybody running my social media. It's just me. And so I know all of it. It's what's out there is from me.
He says, keep it under a minute. We're shooting 12-minute videos of us eating tacos.
So I try to keep it out there as 1-minute videos. Just get the content out there. 2 minutes max for the video sometimes. And that's, people will start to tune out. It's just not in our DNA, unless it's people getting hit in the nuts or stuff like that. People aren't watching it for that long.
I think that's important though, because like what Brian's saying is option fee, earnest money. People don't want to listen to that stuff for more than a minute. What Brian and I are doing with the Let's Taco Bat It podcast thing that we're doing now is we're literally just trying to bring people to our real estate business through other stuff that's going on in the city that they're going to do anyway.
Just hyper-local branding.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they both have their places, but absolutely. I mean, from a first-time homebuyer standpoint, those consumer-based videos are probably fantastic.
And I have playlists on my YouTube channel segmented simply to different parts of it, whether it's first-time homebuyer tips, the 7 steps that I've broken down of the buying process, the 6 of the selling, random sports videos I've taken from around the world. Like we went to Russia a few years ago.
Yeah.
Went to a couple hockey games, and believe it or not, the most watched video on my YouTube channel is, and I found this through Facebook, is somebody made a video for some new game they invented, whatever it is, one of those balls with hockey or whatever it is. But they said, the game's like this, but it also involves this. Well, they had used one of my videos, one of the fights in one of the games that I had.
Kidding?
It had my credit on there. And I went and looked at it later. There was like 1,500 views of that video.
Really?
Just
I don't know if it was the tags I put in there or what, but
that was hilarious.
I had no idea that went that high. And I went back and looked at a few others, and there was like a couple of we went to Ireland, the Guinness bar, the Guinness factory. They had some people doing the Irish jig and all that stuff, and that's gotten some view. But more often than not, it's just being able to get people to your channel and to your media is half of it.
Yep.
So drawing them in, making sure it's segmented. And so, Facebook used to allow you to target people, and even on their little filters, who were engaged. And that's based on, quite honestly, the status, engaged to so-and-so. Well, if you're getting engaged, chances are you're probably going to get married, which means you're probably going to have to buy a house.
Yep.
So I made it a big part of it is why wait till after the wedding to do it?
Right.
Why come home from the honeymoon and they go, hey, honey, where are we going to live? and then it'd be a month later, especially
Right.
if you will go under contract the day you get home. You know, I've had people who get married during the process. That's part of it. And you got a place to come home to when you get back from the honeymoon. You got a place to call home after you come home.
Our mother wouldn't like that. That's a sin.
I did it.
So as we've got a few minutes left, Danny, put out your information there so people can reach out to you. And then I want to get into the billionaire idea.
Which kind of information?
Whatever you want to put out there.
Oh, yeah. We probably should have given him a lower thirds.
I know.
Yeah. So
Where can we find Danny Force?
Yes.
Facebook, Danny Force, Realtor. I'm with DFW Legacy Group. Instagram, Realtor Danny Force. 817-903-5442. All this stuff is found on my website, dannyforce.com.
Where's the YouTube page with the Russian hockey fights?
You'd actually just have to Google that. I lost my URL. I think it was earlier last year. Somebody was trying to get me something on Google or whatever, and it was spamming me and all this stuff, and it ended up getting into that Google circles that I don't think anybody ever really used, but had anyways. And I got rid of, and I unlinked it, and it deleted my entire thing on it.
Sucks.
And so I was like, all right, well, that goes away. So I think I got to get to the 100 subscribers to be able to get my own branding thing back.
There you go.
But yeah, YouTube is Danny Force Realtor. It'll pop up, and there's this mug right here.
Nice.
There you go.
Don't run away.
So go subscribe so you can get his URL back.
Yeah.
We're very proud that we have our own URL. It's one of our biggest accomplishments. So I didn't really fully bake this one, but it's kind of been going around in my head. I'm going to stage a series of natural disasters or tragic events, but they're all going to chiefly affect me. I like to do a lot of things that sort of mentally play with people's minds, like where I staged my own kidnapping last time to make people think I was super tough, right? Now I'm going to make people think I'm just crazy unlucky. So I'm going to start, first off, I'm going to start a space company. It's going to be like SpaceX. It's going to be called...
Start a space company.
But it's
This is like something my 4-year-old would aspire to do.
it's gonna be called like Brian SpaceX
Right.
or whatever.
Of course.
I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the name. It's not gonna be real company.
Clearly.
It's not going to be Richard Branson.
No, yeah. So I think Brian Galactic is what's it gonna be called. We're gonna have our first launch. The whole thing is gonna be staged, but most people don't know that. They think there's gonna be real astronauts, real rocket, real launch. I'm gonna be like, dude, we're going to freaking Pluto. I already got it mapped out. People are like, holy shit, Pluto. I'm like, guys, it's possible. Brian Galactic to Pluto and beyond. Rocket's going to explode immediately after takeoff. There wasn't actually going to be anybody in there. And I was going to have known about it the whole time, but they're like, oh no, this is the biggest disaster. It's going to be world news. Like, billionaire Brian Galactic's rocket explodes. And 2 months later, I'm going to be like, we're going to try again. I think we figured it out. I think there's a hose loose in the rocket and it exploded. We're going to build a whole nother rocket. It's going to take us years, maybe 1 year. I will have already had the plans. We're going to shoot that one up. It's going to explode almost just as fast. People are like, Brian I love him. He's jolly and he's rich, but he can't build rockets for shit. So I'm going to be like, all right, guys, Brian Galactic was a bust. I'm sorry. I didn't hire the right people. I don't know what's going on. We're going to start Brian Cruises. I'm going to build the biggest cruise ship in the world. We're going to have our maiden voyage. People, again, it's going to all be staged. They're going to think it's full of people. I don't know how I'm going to make sure they think it's full of people. I have to get actors or do like
that's
a
what
lot
you
of
have to worry about.
a lot
the
of
scenarios.
records or something.
Why does it sound like a series of Final Destination movies?
Because that's
Anyway.
all this is. This is his new thing.
It's going to be like Bon Voyage. It's going to sail away. Probably 2 miles out, things going to immediately sink. It's a big cruise. People are like, this guy can't build anything. And then I'm going to probably spend the whole rest of my life just thinking of shit like that. And I'm just going to develop this awesome reputation as a dude that just gets kidnapped and can fight off cartels single-handedly, but can't shoot a rocket into space for beans, and will not quit. Is just unreal resilient at his awesome ideas that always seem to fail. And I'm just going to be laughing the whole time in my house about my funny bits.
I just can't believe this is what he sits around and thinks about all the time.
That wasn't a great one today.
Hey, look, I don't know if any of them have been great, but they've all been weird.
I got one for you next week about me running up incredibly high bills on toll roads.
Nice.
Which is actually inspired by real life. And one that you don't need to be a billionaire to even do in your own life, which is to go to your friends' houses and take pictures of all of their family pictures with your phone real neatly, and then do a face swap. and then print them out and replace them the next time you're
But that's
there.
coming up, so don't ruin
Which
it.
would
It's like
be
a Michael. That's like a Michael Scott bit from The Office where he photoshops
we used to
his
share a
tails.
bathroom. We used to share a bathroom.
Like, that's so amazing. I lived through childhood. It's
So
made
look out for
interesting.
Brian Cruise Lines coming 2022.
Yeah.
But not if you want to live in 2023.
So Google Danny Force on YouTube, find him. Google Undoubtedly Dallas, so you can see Brian and I's cheap ideas, which is eating tacos.
Boom.
Check out all Nick's new stuff once he changes his name on everything. And I think that's it. TourAcademy.com. Derek, take us out, buddy.
Ba-da-da-da-da.